Next up, we got a great little conversation that Joey Taufete'e, who's a USA Rugby player, was able to make a statement about what was going on for USA Rugby, the hosting for the 2031 Rugby World Cup. And I liked it. It wasn't anything super major, it wasn't anything super major, but he did kind of project the question of like, are we ready for it? So in his article, well, let's first and foremost, let's call it for what it is. Like, first and foremost, who's Joe Taufete'e? Now, if you guys don't know Joe is a beast, USA Rugby player. Beast USA Rugby player. He has been an Olympian. He has been a World Cup player. He's played for the Worcester Warriors before they fell apart. He recently was playing for the Leicester Tigers. Now has been playing for the Houston Sabercats. And of course, used to play for the LA Giltinis. The man's got championships. He's played in the biggest games. So he knows what he's doing. He's a hooker. He's a prop. He's been a dynamic force, to say the least. I think this can be said quite easily. So he wrote an article on the website Cozy Performance.com. The article named Rugby's Crossroads, Paving the Pathway to Major League Sustainability. And his premise for his entire thing was that the USA MLR program is absolutely pivotal to the credibility and placement for the USA Rugby World Cup 31 bid. Hold on, y'all. For him, I think, a lot of the precipice was on, after the Toronto Arrows and the New York Ironworkers finally, obviously they're folds right now, and the loss of Bill Webb has made some big change, made some big impact onto that. But one of the quotes that he said on there that I really liked was where he kind of compounded on the factor of amidst the challenges, there lies opportunity for transformation. All right. One plausible solution emerges in the form of a collaborative ownership. Sharing the ownership mantle among a consortium of investors could cushion financial risk and distribute burdens, offering a shield against economic downturns impacting individual teams. One example he used was a collaboration with Legends, a premium experience company that could fuel commercial revenue, sharing up the league's financial foothold in the quest for sustainability, global partnership, robust digital marketing strategies, business intelligence stands as crucial pillars for the revenue growth and fan engagement. Now, I definitely agree with him, but I already feel like the MLR has already been doing that, which, I think he's now looking at how do you guys scale that more? What have you been working on? And you've seen it. MLR is working with the I forgot the name of the ball partner that now putting the tracker system inside the balls. They've worked with a few digital marketing companies along the way that have been recommended by agencies like WME and stuff like that. They've worked with them. I think a lot of it has still been, bits and pieces. Obviously, I talked about the things that I believed would help the MLR and rugby as a whole, but really particularly the MLR. And we've kind of seen a lot of this lately. The other thing that he said, that Joe said, was the stakes transcend the league's boundaries of what the impact of MLR is. MLR's success is not just about its own sustainability, but crucial influences the future of rugby in the U.S. With the 2031 men's and 2033 women's Rugby World Cup slated in the country, MLR's sustainability becomes pivotal. It shapes the performance of the U.S. national team and fosters local interest, both vital elements for the success of these global tournaments. So I don't disagree with him on this factor. I don't think, obviously, it's the sole elements that need to be held for maintaining the Rugby World Cup 2031 and 33, or for the community engagement. There's elements that go around that are not just simply based off of what's on the field. It does create that credibility moment inside to at least say, hey, we got this professional team. We have a discipline. We have a means of creating developmental areas that are not just limited to the universities or to the amateur clubs. We got guys that are daily use rugby players. But it's also, again, not groundbreaking, but I think this is a good step forward into a media space and presenting something from his own presentation. Again, he is a professional rugby player. I played at the highest level of professional rugby as well as the developing level like MLR. So he is not a stranger by any means to what the world of rugby and the business of it is from a player standpoint. But as I said, I think it's a very simplified way of saying it. But he's not wrong. Just like I said, it's not the full story, but it's definitely part of it. We got Average Rugger asks, what do you think about some MLR fans who are complaining that the MLR is full of overseas players and not growing the local game? I disagree with this. Better talent makes better local rugby. So I appreciate the question on that one. Honestly, I think there's a mixed bag on this one. I remember whenever the initial idea for the MLR after the professional rugby league went down, and even with that, was the idea of being able to develop your local talent. I think that is one thing that is absolutely needed to be had because local talent does attribute to your community. At the same time, I do think that there is a requirement and a need to bring in veterans from other countries, even if they've been playoffs, because of the fact that, it's the rising tide lifts all boat kind of concept. So if you are not increasing the competition that you're playing against, it's very difficult to develop the guys because you're only going to be playing amongst yourselves. And honestly, what would have been the difference between them doing that as amateur club players versus them doing it as professional players? It would have just been they got paid probably worse than they would have on a home basis, committed more time to be basically doing the same thing. So I do think that there's been a value to bringing in overseas players. That being said, there has been a really needs to be an overarching need, not so much about trying to necessarily just have your homegrown players, but being able to really overdevelop the grassroots side. So, for example, right now, I'll use the NFL as an example. The NFL has a huge problem where they have a constriction in participation at the high school level. For the first time, they are under 1 million total players playing football in the USA. That's including Pop Warner to middle school, high school, college, professional, most of it being residing within the high school levels. That impacts what you do for obviously future players that'll be coming in and being able to scale your talent. But also it speaks volumes to what your viewer base is going to end up being. So, people will attach more to their homegrown bodies than they ever will to any foreign body. We can see that in the NBA. Everybody can say like Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luke Adonik, or homeboy from the Nuggets and all these guys who are actually doing Joel Embiid, doing well. They're foreign players, but nobody connects in the same way with this American audience to you have a LeBron, a Steph, in the past, and Allen, obviously Michael Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, yada, yada. Homegrown is always going to attach the audience. If we had more audience coming from outside the U.S. and then participating, then I actually think that greater amount of international players definitely helps with the growth of the league outside the field as well. But as of right now, I've always felt like the MLR has done a poor job in marketing their international players. If you're going to pay this much and bring them in and do all this visa, you may as well capitalize on every bit of them and put them in every centerpiece of your marketing that you possibly can. And I don't think you've made their stars from that. So from a local level, it's something that you can do. And I think obviously when it comes to scaling, it's cheaper. It's equivalent of, are you licensed? Are you going to license players? Are you, it's like Netflix. Is it cheaper to license movies, or is it easier to create your own? At the beginning, it's always going to be harder because you need the runway, and so licensing makes the most sense. But over time, it needs to be able to build up. And Rutgers, if we get more MLR academies, that would help the grassroots level. I don't even think necessarily we need more academies. I think it's just need more help in developing a streamlined situation that can be based around the academies and they can be a centerpiece. But I don't think we need like 20 academies. You know, I think the 11 academies, one per MLR team, is fine. And then regionalized, they should play as the centerpiece or administration for a statewide or region-wide version of grassroots play in youth rugby. I know they're doing this a little bit in Baton Rouge. Shout out to Teresa, who works with Nola Gold, and their players who are second team and some first, coach the younger players, and then those younger players get the obviously experience of that veteran play, that professional play, and then you keep your loyalties growing up and obviously build a base that over the course of like 15, 20 years actually becomes very, very significant to the overall objective for the MLR itself. So yeah, so let me know, please let me know what you guys think.
I ain't convinced. Black out the tents.